We finally did it. We built a full minifigure scale Ghost from the TV show Star Wars Rebels. This ship is one of the key elements in establishing and organizing the rebellion against the Empire, and not only did we base our design from the show's later seasons, but we also incorporated design details only seen in the live-action film Rogue One. The 3D images for the movie model were released, allowing us to go beyond the TV show details with added greebling and upgrades to areas not seen in the show. The ship is built to perfect minifig scale, and the dimensions are exact. So when you place another properly scaled Star Wars ship next to it, you can see how they relate to each other within universe. Here we've got the Ultimate Collector Series Millennium Falcon set next to the Ghost, and it's cool to see these two Corellian freighters, how they would actually scale to each other within universe. But how big is the Ghost actually though? In real life, it is 38.5 inches long, or 98 centimeters, 33.5 inches wide, or 85 centimeters, and 14 inches tall, 36 centimeters. So in practical terminology, this thing's a beast. Now, some text did flash by in the beginning of the video saying that we do have the instructions available at our web store, that is www.brickvault.toys, and we sell these instructions as well as instructions for other very high quality mocks in the attempt to fund more awesome creations like this in the future. Now, in the creation of this mock, it was quite the journey. It started over a year ago, first as a digital file started by my brother Charlie, then Sean Miller jumped on the team, completing the design in digital format, and Mike and I spent 80 hours building and doing some fixing and updates to the model along the way. So combining all of that together, the Ghost totals over 300 work hours. And from all that time and effort, not only do we get the Ghost, but also we've created a very comprehensive PDF instruction booklet that simplifies overcomplicated steps and fixes errors that we found along the way. So anyways, that's the basic info and sort of history about this nearly 12,000 piece mock, but it's more than just a simple hunk of bricks that's resting in the middle of our office right now. We've built in quite a few details, and there's definitely some cool features that I'd like to show off a bit closer. So starting with its functions, I mean, it's primarily a giant display model, but there are definitely things that you can interact with within the body of the Ghost. Firstly, the Ghost does have a couple of external turrets. It's no secret that the design team took cues from the B-17 World War II bomber, and the turret placement matches up the same for both. So on the top, we've got a glass-domed turret with two cannons that can rotate in 360 degrees. The dome fits on a little bit loose because, well, this is the first thing that comes off when you transport the ship, and it's built in such a way that the turret rotates along with the gunner's seat just like it does in the show. Other than that, the turret itself fits in pretty well, and I'm happy with the shape of the plate detailing that surrounds it on the top. Now moving to the second turret in the front of the Ghost, it's right underneath the main cockpit, just like the B-17. And here the detailing for that front dome is a little bit more complex, involving a flexi tube and some clips, and I'm satisfied enough with the final shape that we got. Moving to the turret though, you can see the turret can move back and forth left to right, but that action remains independent from the turning of the gunner seat inside the windscreen. And altogether, I'm really happy with the way that the front of the Ghost turned out. There's a lot of fun shapes here, and it was my favorite part of the build to put together. Now the next function, and actually last movable external function for the Ghost here, is right below, and it's pretty simple. You just open up the front ramp. And here I also placed the crew just to give you guys an idea of what the Ghost looks like scaled to actual minifigs in the shot, and I personally just can't get over how tall this thing is in universe. Now believe it or not, this ramp isn't just a hollow lead-in to nowhere. It walks right into the front storage area, which then connects with the rest of the fleshed out interior of the ship. Like you briefly saw before, the front panel just slides right out, and the first thing you see is the main cockpit control room that rests just above that gunner seat. It's a relatively simple interior with 4 seats, 2 main control panels in the front, another console on the side, and that yellow ladder does lead directly down into the storage compartment by the entrance. Here's a quick look at the inside of the storage compartment. We've got some tubes that line the sides of the hallway, as well as a lot of great pieces to match up with how the floor is supposed to look. Really though, the main bit of interior that we spent the most time building was the crew quarters, and that exists as its own modular chunk that you take out of the ship. There are 4 rooms, and they each match up with how their interior is supposed to look from the show, and the rooms are also laid out in the correct order according to this diagram. Captain Harrison Dula has a pretty basic room by all accounts, while Sabine Wren is, well, a little bit more creative with her dwelling. Ezra and Zeb have bunk beds that are different colors and still a pretty simple room, while you can see Kanan has a little bit more detailing, including some tools on the walls. The rooms themselves are pretty simple after all, and I think it's worth pointing out the tan detailing of the cheese wedge pieces and the tile pieces that make up those tubular hallways, because I think it's kind of fun that they also share a similar build style with the interior of the UCS Millennium Falcon. They are Corellian freighters after all. So, now we're putting the Ghost back together. Those are technically all of the interactive features that we have. And now I think it's worthwhile taking a closer look at a bit more of the design. One of my favorite ways to look at the Ghost is from its profile. I think it's got a really awesome shape. And it's one of the few ships from the extended universe that I hold in the same esteem, so to speak, as the original trilogy. Now, while we are at this angle, I think it is worth pointing out that this is the Ghost from the later seasons from the Rebel show. Turns out earlier in the series, the Ghost actually had a bit of a different shape, mostly on the underside, and then later, as the story progressed, the Ghost just changed, basically, and nobody ever addressed it. I guess the designers just switched it up a little bit between seasons, and it's also worth pointing out that the Ghost that appeared in Rogue One followed the same design from the later seasons. So the dimensional changes of the ship are pretty noticeable. The underside panels on the front have flattened out, and the panels in the back flatten out as well. They used to meet in the middle at a much lower angle, and in essence, the belly of the Ghost basically just thinned out quite a bit. And this is a very quick aside, but yes, there is an extra support in the back. In reality, the Ghost could never really land properly because all their engines and most of the weight is in the back of the ship, and they didn't ever build landing gear to support that. Kind of a silly design choice on the LucasArts team, if you ask me. And right now, this is the simple column I built up. I might change it and make it look a little bit cooler down the line. Anyways, jumping back into the thinning of the Ghost, that fin that we're looking at also has shortened. So I guess in the simplest terms, maybe the Ghost just got outside more and started exercising as the seasons went by. And as you can see, this image morphing from the later seasons to Rogue One, the designers kept going along sort of the same lines. Switching back and forth between these images though, the main stuff that really caught our eye was all of the extra added small details to the ship, and we really liked all that fine mechanical detailing that you can see along the center line. In the show, these were just flat white panels that looked pretty much the same as the rest of the surface area of the Ghost, but this sort of Oreo filling type change up for the mechanical detailing along the center certainly makes it line up with the design of the Falcon a little bit more. The mechanical detailing here is not a perfect mirror image from the left side of the ship to the right. It shares a lot of similarities, but we did do a few little change ups to make every side corner panel just a little bit different from each other. And while we're down here, let's take a closer look at the airlock. The build for it was pretty simple, and from where those light blue wedges and tiles meet the rest of the body, you can actually just pop that detailing right off with the Technic pins, which makes it a lot easier getting this thing through doors. Remember, the width is about the same size as a standard width of a doorway, so those would definitely be the first things to get knocked off when transporting between A and B. Now, speaking of things possibly getting knocked off of this giant beast of a build, let's check out the back and take a closer look at these engines. I'm really happy with the way these things turned out. This was not an easy part of the build, and because of that, I'm extra careful about these engines. They stick out a little further. We've already had a t-shirt catch on to the end and rip one of them off, and the prospect of rebuilding this part takes quite a while. Specifically, the internal structure of the two large engines is easily the most complex part of this mock build, but the effort is absolutely worth it. The slope pieces expand out evenly into the larger round shape of the ship, and the smooth cylinder shape is outlined by some smaller tread pieces that are wrapping around some wheels. The dish pieces on both the large engines and the smaller ones do a pretty good job at outlining what the actual thruster glow looks like from the show. And just in case you're wondering, the internal structure of the small engines is like way easier and way more simple to put together compared to the large ones. Their connection points are sandwiched between basically a solid block of bricks, with fortunately a very small prospect of them actually getting knocked off. While you're down here, you can also see some of the greebling in the back as well. And I think together with the fun, accurate, very smooth build of the engines combined with this dark gray diamond of sort of a lot of mechanical detailing makes the back of the Ghost one of the more visually interesting parts of the ship. Now, I know some of you definitely have this question, and probably you've been asking it since the beginning of the video. Do we have a Phantom to go along with the Ghost? The answer is yes, we have one currently in development, and ultimately we'd like to have both versions of the Phantom, the new one as well as the old, to be scaled properly and be able to fit into the back slot here. Now, for a project that has been in the works for over a year, accumulated 300 plus hours of build and design, and essentially expanded my overall acuity with Lego bricks, I could talk about this MOC endlessly. As an adult fan of Lego, I can say working on this project has been my single most rewarding experience with bricks. We absolutely love working on these massive projects here at the studio. And remember, the PDF instructions and parts list, as well as support email, are all available at our web store. And it helps support massive projects like this and more to come in the future. So thanks a lot for watching, everybody. We have set the bar higher for ourselves here at BrickVault with the Ghost MOC. And thanks a lot for watching. Hope to see you next time at BrickVault.